And so if you're comfortable where you are, maybe just noticing how you're sitting, making sure that the sit bones are aligned properly for you to be comfortable. Yeah. And just becoming aware of the fact that you're breathing in this moment, even if it's a very faint breath, just noticing that there is breath here moving through the body. And there's absolutely nothing that you need to do. The body is breathing all on its own. Just stepping away from time, stepping away from anything else. And if there's still anything lingering from the moment before, maybe just creating space for it, noticing it without getting carried away, without being taken away by what is here, but just noticing it and just coming back to this body breathing for you. Allowing the abdomen to expand on the in-breath and contract on the out-breath. And during the practice, you might notice at times, even when we pay attention to the breath, that there might be a need to control, to change, to make things happen differently. So seeing what it's like when that happens. And there's always the invitation to just be with what is here. Or maybe just taking a deeper than normal breath. Just for once, noticing what it's like to breathe in this way, expanding the abdomen, letting the breath go out into the world on the exhale. And then just allowing your attention to settle right here on the abdomen. Noticing how the breath moves. Now just expanding your attention from the abdomen, from sensing the breath to the rest of the body. Just noticing the areas of contact of the body with the surface holding you. Noticing temperature, softness, rigidity. Just bringing a sense of curiosity of how this body interacts with the surface. Just allowing yourself to settle in this moment, settling in this body, allowing the pull of gravity to just do its thing. And then becoming aware of any tension or tightness anywhere. If you notice the need to control how this body feels, to change anything, to push anything away, seeing if you can just invite a sense of curiosity into the tension or the tightness and seeing what happens when you do that. So instead of commanding it to be differently, seeing if we can accompany the tension or tightness. And then really gently just allowing it to soften on its own terms. You might notice some patterns of tightness in the body that are pretty imprinted, maybe for a long time, patterns that is holding on to. You notice that, just offering space for that, perhaps a sense of gratitude, for they wouldn't be here unless they were there created to be helpful in some way. Noticing what it's like to just let go of the need to change anything, the need for control of this body. What is it like to just give it space to express and communicate? What is it not? What is it like to trust this body in this moment? Now I invite you to just notice what needs softening right now in the body. And instead of having it be something that needs to happen, just noticing. And if softening is happening, a sense of calmness or relaxation or ease, you're just bathing in that sense and noticing what it's like in these areas of the body when they give up the tension. What happens, what shifts in the experiential level? Noticing if this softening is coming in with a breath. Noticing if there's a shift in the breathing. And maybe softening is not happening at all right now. And can you be okay with that? Trusting that the body knows. Every time you notice the mind wandering, telling stories, taking you away through images or even what it might seem like a little movie clip of different events and things, just acknowledging that that's happening and coming back to this moment, to noticing this body and seeing whether that added to the tension or the tightness, noticing how it shifts. And then getting away from that and noticing if you can just be here with this body, with this experience, with the breath, the sensation of the body settling in this moment. guiding the way. You're noticing that you're having a hard time staying with the body, and the mind is just relating your experience instead of allowing you to be in the experience itself. Just perhaps turning in towards kindness for this part of you that's coming in to constantly chat, evaluate, describe, narrate. And maybe just taking in a deeper than normal breath if that's happening. Allowing the attention to rest right here on your breathing for a while. Seeing if you can tune into your heartbeat, if it's present and available for you right now. The heart is beating regardless. Seeing if your attention can stay with it. And if not, then that's okay too. And as you listen in this way to your body, just noticing what is it like to trust the body's wisdom, that every tightness, every tension has a reason for being. Charlie Chaplin, in a poem called When I Started Loving Myself, says, when I started loving myself, I understood that I am always and at any given opportunity in the right place and at the right time. And I understood that all that happens is right. From then on, I could be calm and at ease. Today, I know it is called trust. When I started to love myself, I understood how much it can offend somebody. It can offend somebody, when I tried to force my desires on this person, even though I knew the time is not right and the person was not ready for it. And even though this person was me, today I know it is called letting go. When I started loving myself, I could recognize that emotional pain and grief are just warnings for me to not live against my own truth. Today, I know it is called authentically being. When I started loving myself, I could recognize that emotional pain. Sorry, I already read that part. When I started loving myself, I stopped longing for another life and could see that everything around me was a request to grow. Today, I know it's called maturity. When I started loving myself, I stopped depriving myself of my free time and stopped sketching further magnificent projects for the future. Today, I only do what's fun and joy for me, what I love and what makes my heart laugh in my own way and in my own tempo. Today, I know that that is called honesty. When I started loving myself, I escaped from all that what wasn't healthy for me, from dishes, people, things, situations, and from everything pulling me down and away from myself. In the beginning, I called it the healthy egoism. And today I know it's called self-love. When I started loving myself, I stopped wanting to be always right, thus I've been less wrong. Today I've recognized it's called humbleness. When I started loving myself, I refused to live further in the past and worry about my future. Now I live only at this moment where everything takes place, like this. I live every day and I call it consciousness. When I started loving myself, I recognized that my thinking can make me miserable and sick. When I requested for my heart forces, my mind got an important partner. Today I call this connection, heart wisdom. We do not need to fear further discussions, conflicts, and problems with ourselves and others, since even stars sometimes bang on each other and create new worlds. Today I know this is life. What I'm learning is that sometimes the lack of trust comes in as a need for controlling things. So maybe we can just settle with those words, noticing how the body is receiving them, how your being is receiving them. As we come to the end of this formal practice, maybe just noticing again your feet, if they're on the ground, the palms of your hands. Just seeing what this body needs right now, attending to it in a very slow, soft way without an impulse to move or shift or change, but just allowing the body to move, to gather. And at your own pace, as you move around, as this body collects itself again into a new moment, just allowing the eyes to gently open if they're closed. Maybe just taking a deeper than normal breath. So welcome back to this moment. And in the last few weeks, we've been spending time with trust and exploring what trust is and what it means to us, to every single one of us. It could be very different depending on our life experience. And so something that I've also noticed is that sometimes when trust is not there because there is a need to control things, just like I said before. And there is an urge that comes with that sometimes, this need to control. It could be, the fear of uncertainty, a fear that we don't know what's going to happen unless we control it. And sometimes that filters in our practice. I don't know if you've noticed that even when we say, let's pay attention to the breath, in some way, this control comes in to breathe a certain way. I'm breathing too fast. I need to relax. I need to breathe slowly. Right? If it's too slow and I feel like it's too slow now, I'm not getting enough oxygen, I'm going to control that too. So just noticing how this control thing comes in, this urge to have things being different than what they are. Right? And so for me, I think there is an acknowledgement with a sense of having to control things and noticing that this urge for controlling something is there, can really guide me into a deeper wisdom. If I pay attention to what it's like when I try to control things in my body, for instance, I notice that my body's tense or tight. And I notice it in different parts, maybe sometimes the jaw, I notice it in my shoulders, wanting things to be different than they are. And so if I pay attention to that, I might notice that this is not new, that perhaps some of these things have been with me for a very long time. Perhaps I've learned at some point in my life that controlling created safety, right? And so it's not so much about judging ourselves for controlling, but mainly to notice what is it like when that happens. And to ask ourselves the question of like, what is it that I'm not trusting right now? And could I come back to myself to gather that information? What is happening? And so last week we spoke a little bit about fear coming in and how that plays a role. And so this body holds a lot of wisdom and a lot of information if we just tune into it. And so it's not always easy to tune into the body. Sometimes it could be overwhelming. Sometimes there might be sensations that might be too hard to be with at the moment. So we can always shift to the breath and just notice what's here. So the idea is to notice this urge for control. And it's going to be very different for all of us as we explore this further. So the invitation for until I see you again is to notice, what is it like for you? What happens right before the need to control something? How does your body feel? Is it tensing and guarding? Is it rigid and out? What message is it giving you? And what does it need? What might you need at that moment to just let go? So, yeah, I thank you so much for being here, for sharing this time with me and with everybody here. I learned so much from just being here with you every week. People say that we teach what we need to learn the most. And yeah, and so, again, with these teachings, I mainly just sharing my own experience and my own knowledge of different teachers, different things that I've been exposed to over the years, and hoping that it might help in some way. And if it doesn't, if you feel like it's not something that you need at this moment, that's okay too. I just thank you for coming in and for being here with us. And you are always welcome to mute your mic, mute the speaker, and to just sit in silence as well. It's not important, really. The words are not important. It's more important that you are with your experience. I always like to remind you of that. This is not about me. This is about you. This is about your experience and how you are in this moment every time we meet. And that goes for me too. So, yeah. So thank you for sitting here and for sharing this time with me.